Welcome to part 3 of Doug Selph's Garden Talk Salon Pressed Floral Art.
2 plywood boards about this size. This can go right into it because you've got your newspaper, you've got the magazine to also do some further wicking. If you wanted to separate each one with a piece of cardboard, that's also good. If you're not using something like this and you're just going to use the newspaper, it's good to stack just the newspaper without the pressings in it. Put another layer in there between it. Put some cardboard and just layer like that. And you can put as much as you want into the press at any given time, just by layering and building up. The sleeve with the pressings, newspaper, cardboard, newspaper, another leaf with the pressings, cardboard, just sort of build it up like that. Then put your second board on top, and what is easy to do is just, you can get at Home Depot or Lowe's or anywhere like that, those straps with the buckles that you pull. Get 2 straps, put around on each side, the whole thing, pull as tight as you can. If you then want to, put a heavy box on top of that's also good. But actually, just the press in and of itself will work. It's all about pressure. You've got the material in here to fill up. To take in the moisture. You've got the pressure, and that's going to make it all flat. Time. We try to press things for 2 months. That sounds like a long time. I have also read, 2 to 3 weeks, and it really does kind of depend on what you're pressing. Things like leaves or ferns are not going to take as long. Thicker flowers are going to take longer. Hydrangea takes, and it depends, but sometimes doesn't take as long. But my philosophy is just, if you can wait that long, the longer you can wait, the better. It's going to get more. It's going to get flatter. It's going to get more of that translucent quality, and you can you can also check on it and go back in and see if you need to change the paper. Sometimes I will do that. I read somewhere you should change the paper every 12 hours. Well, let's face it, we don't change clothes. I don't. More frequently than that. So, that seemed a little ridiculous to me. And quite frankly, I have not seen that really affecting the results. As long as your press is in somewhere that's dry and well ventilated and not, some dark sort of moldy basement or anything. Because you do want good airflow wherever you're doing the drying. Sometimes we may just do it a month. It just depends. But typically I like to let it go 2 because I just want to make sure that everything is completely dry.
So when you check on it, how do you know if it's not ready yet?
If it feels damp, and the paper, if it still looks like it's too damp, I would say, it needs to go a little bit longer.
So it should be like dry as paper?
It should be, yeah. Here's some examples of the pressed flowers. This is a viburnum.
Oh, wow.
And you can see, that's very flat. And again, this was like pressed for 2 months.
And you took it apart. You took those.
This particular one was a small one, and I didn't try. Okay. I spread it out a bit, and that's what I like to do with hydrangea. You don't want to put it so that it's like all piled up on each other. I kind of push it down a little bit, and sometimes I will, if it's particularly big, I will kind of pull it apart a little. Now here's a rosebud, and this is one that was cut in 2. You can sort of see the center there, and so another word about it too, because I often get asked about how long is the color going to last. Once we press them and go to mount them on our paper to do our pictures, we don't treat them. We don't spray them with anything. They're perfectly dry. We tell folks to try not to hang their pictures or put them, in terms of tabletop items like this, in the sunlight if you can. Obviously, they're going to retain their color a lot longer if they're not getting sun on them. Eventually, they're going to turn a little bit. White roses like this will tend to, get golden like this in the pressing. Brighter colors will come out and look pretty much as they did. Orange, the blue hydrangeas do very well. Yellow, pinks. I get mixed results with pinks. Sometimes the pinks look kind of bleached out to me. But this heather right here did very well. If the plant itself is already something that's kind of drier and not particularly moist, it's going to work better and the color is probably going to last longer. Here's like where I took a whole, this is a New Dawn rose, I think. I didn't cut that one, I just sort of flattened it. And it loses a little bit of its, I think, shape somewhat when you do that. So I usually try to cut them in half. This is, a Japanese maple from kind of earlier this spring, I think. Some Dusty Miller. I like to do, just whenever I see things like this that I can use, kind of for filler here and there. But as I said, I mean, you can do different styles. I mean, you could make something that looks like a bouquet of flowers, even down to like making a little vase or a pot. But what we try to do with Southern Botanics is be a little bit more, as I said, in the style of a botanical engraving. The single flower with leaves. We always try to record what it is. If we have room, we put the Latin name, and I put the date that we matted it, mounted it, and my initials on it. On the back, I don't know if any of these have them, but we have a stamp too that has more information that we'll put on it, where we collected it, the date we collected it, that sort of thing. Because I think it's nice to have that kind of provenance from later on. I mean, hopefully this is something that you'll want to keep. And I know sometimes we'll see antique botanicals, and I think those are very charming when they have all that information written on them. It's a nice thing to remember by.
How do you keep up with that as much as you have going on?
I file everything. I put everything in manila folders, laying flat, and I try to label them. It is hard though to keep up with, and it also kind of the different things that we use for presses. I label as to when they go in. I'm not as good with the records as I need to be now that we're doing a lot more stuff. But I know I need to wrap this up, but I wanted to just do a real quick demonstration on the mounting of the flower, because I think this is like the greatest thing since sliced bread, in my opinion. Glue dots. This is what we use. The paper that we typically use, and again, you can use anything. I like to use archival quality. This is linen paper, which I get from some kind of a science company. This is good because it's, what's the word? Blanking on the word, but very scientific word. That means it doesn't have acid in the paper.
Acid-free?
Acid-free, but there's another, lignin-free.
Oh.
Lignin-free. So it doesn't have the things in there that could discolor over time, the materials. And this is the kind of paper they would use when they make a herbarium in like a museum or research institution. So that's typically what we use in the mounting. I did get creative on this one, and I used some sheet music as a background. But these are great. I mean, you peel off the little dot, just pops off. You put it down on your paper where you want your plant to go, and you just give it a little pat like that. I didn't center that one very well at all. And it holds great, and it's also acid-free, so it's not going to eventually bleed through the plant or anything. I think what typically in the Victorian era and in the 60s and 70s people would use would be like very thin, watered down glue or wheat paste or something like that. But I don't know that would hold up very well over time. So we like to use these. These are quick and easy. And so it's nice it's a nice tool to use, really, for anything that you may have to mount. If you don't know about glue dots, glue dots.
Are they easily available?
They are. I think we buy ours in Atlanta at one of the art binders.
Okay.
But I think I've seen them at office supply stores too. So, so that's basically how we would kind of, then, mount the things. And we typically do, we frame all our own things. Sometimes, like this one, we would, use mats. I mean, again, you can finish it any way you want it. I sometimes like just the cleaner look without the mats. So that, the main thing is really just to have fun with it and, experiment and try different things. And you really can, you can do it yourself at home. I mean, it really takes nothing more than, a few things in your imagination. As I said, we do a lot of commission work for weddings, using wedding flowers. We've done some, do flowers for memorial services. Had 2 orders where the person had specific plants in their garden that were handed down, maybe from their parents' garden. And they wanted to put those in a picture with a photograph, an old photograph of their parents' garden. So it's fun to work on those things and to help people kind of help, them preserve their memories, just like I think, any kind of framer or artist might do. So we are available to do things like that. We do festivals. We have some things in stores. That's how we, trying to get our product out. But let me ask, stop because I'm about to run over here and ask if anyone has any questions. Yes.
The lilies.
Yes.
Do you unfurl some of those petals and then some of them you just leave down the way they are?
I think you could, yeah. I almost think in this case, once I removed the stamens here, I would probably clip it off right here at the stem.
Okay.
And I would probably just put it face down.
Oh, wow,
Okay.
yeah.
But I might take another one, and maybe try to do, maybe even cut it in half and do a side view of it, and might put the 2 of them together.
Now, when you put that back together and you put the stamens in, do you use the glue dots or you just lay them there?
Glue, I would use one of those.
Okay.
They also, the great thing about these is they come in different sizes.
Yeah.
So you can get tiny ones.
Teeny ones.
Yeah, which is nice.
And can you do herbs?
Yes, absolutely. We have over at our shop, I know I've got some rosemary, which does very well.
Sage?
Yeah, those tend to do really well. One other thing too, just to mention real quickly, once something is dry already, you really can't press it. It's not going to, it's probably going to crumble. So that's why it's important to just immediately, as soon as possible after picking something, get it in the press. So.
Thanks, Doug, for that fabulous discussion on floral pressed art. I can't wait to try my hand at that. This is Mary Palmer Dargan. Thanks for being with us.